My name is Oliver Carroll. I'm standing to represent Altrincham and Sale West at the general election. Born and raised locally, went to Green Primary School, Altrincham Grammar. I've been a lawyer for the past 10 years, thereabouts, standing now to represent my hometown in Parliament. Look, I mean, I'm under no illusions that we haven't had a great time as a country, and certainly the Conservative Party hasn't had a great time either. But I do feel quite strongly that we need better professionals in Parliament. And when the opportunity came up to represent my hometown, I thought, well, put your money where your mouth is and throw your hat in the ring. So that's why I'm here. I mean, I'm a Conservative because I believe in equality of opportunity. I believe that your talent should take you as far as they can in life, and actually growing up here, going to school here, in our unique education system, I think has given me that grounding. I believe passionately in what Altrincham and Sale have to offer, and I think that's reinforced my political beliefs from the get-go. Well, of course, there's a whole host of national issues. Clearly, the economy is turning a corner, but we've gone through a tough time. My campaign locally has been focused on protecting our schools, which are under severe pressure, and preventing damage to them from potential threats on the horizon. We need to get our hospital fully reopened, and I want to protect our green spaces because they're precious and few and far between here in Altrincham and Sale West. So those have been my focuses during the campaign, but of course there are a ton of issues to grapple with. Not an awful lot in terms of some of the great things that we have to offer in our constituency, but clearly we have issues with things like crime. I would like a lot more people to take a role in some of the fantastic civic work that goes on in Altrincham and Sale West. We've got fantastic civic societies and voluntary organisations which really make the place special and go unnoticed so often, and that's one of the things that's been a great pleasure to see up close and personal as a candidate in the last year, is to actually join in with those organisations and see the work they do. And I think actually if more people got involved in those things, we'd make the place even better to live. I want to push for more school places immediately. I want reassurances on the status of our hospital. I've said I'll introduce a private member's bill into Parliament on peat mosses to protect Carrington moss. But you know, ultimately, schools is the reason that I'm here. It's the reason that I'm in politics to start with, and I want to, drive that agenda forward, fighting for more school places for Altrincham in particular, with Trafford Council, and protecting our schools from threats that are on the horizon. We need more access to GP services. Some of our GP practices are brilliant, my own GP practice being one over at Shea Lane, but clearly we need more access to GPs, and I'm glad that our manifesto has pledged 100 more GP services, GP practices across the country. But access to primary care quickly is proven to be the best investment in healthcare. That's why I'm banging on about Altrincham Minor Injuries Unit, not because it's here and we've paid for it and it's empty and it's a waste of resource, but actually it's a really wise thing to do because it will take pressure off surrounding emergency departments, notably at Wythenshawe. So there are things that we can do to drive efficiencies, use what we have and our resources more wisely, and actually enable more people to access the healthcare they need when they need it. I mean, the plans that are in place I think lack the necessary infrastructure. There's no school, no GP practices, no dentists. The roads around there won't be fit for construction traffic, let alone all the traffic that's going to be involved in people living in thousands of houses on the Greenbelt. But ultimately, once this Greenbelt is gone, it's gone forever. And that's the really sad thing. Clearly, there's things we can do in terms of housing policy and planning policy nationally to increase our housing stock. But just concreting over the Greenbelt, and we don't have much left in Altrincham and Sale, I don't think is the answer at all. We have a severe shortage of secondary school places in Altrincham. It's sort of buried in the footnotes of the council's own documents that they consider they might not be meeting their own legal duties to provide sufficient places. I've been campaigning for the last year for an expansion over at North Kestrian onto the Loreto site. I want to play a useful role there to make sure we can secure that expansion. It's the obvious solution in the immediate term. But you know, in the medium to long term, we need all our schools to be able to expand. And I am the only candidate, we're the only party that is saying all schools, grammar schools, high schools, academies, the lot should be free to expand. That is not the policy of the opposition, the Labour Party at the moment, and we want to make sure that we protect all our schools and enable them to expand for the future. Look, clearly, neurodiversity covers a whole range of kids, right through from people who just have, students who have some issues in the classroom and are perfectly comfortable in mainstream education, and others who need to go to specialist schools. What we need to do is promote and provide extra resources for SEND within our existing schools. I'm glad that we have a manifesto pledge for 15 more SEND schools nationally, specialist schools. But you know, the one thing that we can do to help this situation is not to tax private education, because so many independent schools have state-funded places for kids with special educational needs. And if that tax comes in, all those children from those schools risk coming into the state sector and swamping already quite tight resources. So this is what I mean about threats on the horizon. We need to defend our schools from these threats and make sure there's adequate resources for the future. That goes for SEND especially. It really concerns me that the Labour policy might severely damage all our schools, in particular SEND kids. We need to increase footfall into the town centre. For that, it's not good enough just to put some cycle lanes in, which actually help some people but hamper others. We need more accessible parking in Altrincham, cheaper parking in Altrincham. We need better public transport links into the town. At the moment, it seems to be a zero-sum game between cyclists and motorists. That just won't do. We need to, as I say, provide more free parking spaces. We led a campaign for free after 3 during the Christmas period to help footfall into the town centre. Wasn't taken up by the council, so there's more we can do. Look, it's a massive problem, and Trafford is one of the worst boroughs in the country for potholes. So people that say, oh well, you must hear this all over the country. Not true. Actually, we have it particularly bad here. We did actually provide a solution to the council to invest in new machinery that would do it at a fraction of the cost and in a fraction of the time, but they didn't want to know about it. So I think we need to just take a common sense approach. There's no magic wand here, but there are solutions that can be looked at, and they shouldn't be dismissed purely for political reasons. I don't. Not sort of per se, but there simply isn't the evidence base that says we need it here. We don't have a pollution problem, and we shouldn't be punishing people who are already struggling merely because of the cars that they drive, often because they need to drive them. So no, I don't support clean air zones. I don't support the Mayor's proposal for a clean air zone, and I'm glad that he seems to have put it in the bin. I'm not sure I have any one political hero. I think perhaps the sort of role model, someone like William Hague, solid conservative, common sense, pragmatic man, very good at holding Labour governments to account, proud northerner who never lost his roots, and probably the best Prime Minister we never had. I just love cheesy music. Really bad taste in music. Probably something like Elton John's Yellow Brick Road. One thing that I read at school and I've reread many times is Albert Camus' L'Étranger, and it's a sort of it's a novel about a guy who's modelled on himself, about his sort of individual existence and the meaning of his existence and choices that you make in life. I think it's been quite powerful over the years. Yeah. It started in lockdown, and I started rewatching Friends, and I basically haven't stopped. It's a really good way to switch off at night, so I'd hope Netflix never gets rid of Friends. God, I'm going to upset some people here. Probably either Fantong over there or cinnamon Indian inhale. It's just, you can't beat it for a curry. Sorry, Sigiriya. Right, yeah. Other than my parents, I'd say there's one particular teacher at school that was just amazing, and his words still echo in my brain every time I pick up my pen to write something. John Moran, he's my old English teacher and taught me for years at Alty Boys. I think he's still knocking around actually, and yeah, just an amazing teacher, inspirational. Not sure we share political views, I don't know, but a brilliant man. This is a fun one that I tend to tend to rock out. I used to be a member of a barbershop quartet, so I used to sing complete with hat and stripy waistcoat. So yeah, there you go. Hope that's surprising enough for you, David.